guys, this video is going to be about the beginning stages of drawing the project and doing the transfer for the geometric colored pencil drawing. So in the previous video, you should have completed your designs on the sketch worksheet, or you did it in your notebook. Either way, that's totally fine, and you should have selected at least one of these. If for whatever reason you wanted to do more because you weren't satisfied, you could always do them on on another notebook paper, whatever. But I do want you to put a star next to the geometric design that you want. Now, that doesn't mean you can't change it later. Absolutely, you can change it, but you just need to have a place to start. So for this, you are going to need, depending on if you are at school or if you're at home, if you are at school and you have my drawing paper, this is a 9 by 12 inch drawing paper, okay? 9 by 12. Now, most likely you're not going to have this at your house. This is an actual piece of drawing paper that I got from the art store. So if you don't have that, that's not a big deal. I want you to use a piece of printer paper. Okay, this is just an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of printer paper. Okay, if you don't have a piece of printer paper, you can use notebook paper, but it's really not going to turn out as well. So if your parent doesn't buy you any notebook paper, see if you can find a piece of your mail in the recycling bin that maybe has the print, like pretend this was my mail that has the print on one side, but is blank on the other side. And even if you can see the words a little bit through the paper, that's okay. But this is just giving you another surface to work on. So I'm not saying rummage through your neighbor's trash, but in a way, try to find a piece of mail, okay? All right, so there's two ways that we can make a rectangle into a square. We can measure its shortest side. So if I put my ruler on here, it's 8.5 inches. So I don't need to make a mark here. Over here, this is 11 inches. So if I want to make this into a square, I would need to make a mark at 8.5 on the top. So I make a mark at 8.5. And then I would put my ruler down to the bottom. And I would make sure it's aligned with the left side, because whenever you're measuring, you have to do that. And I would make a mark at 8.5 here. So 8.5 is that line that's in between the 8 and the 9. If you have to pause this video at any time, please do that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my ruler and I am going to connect those two lines together. So I make sure my ruler is on that top mark, make sure the ruler is on the bottom mark, and I draw a line just like that. Now let's say you're like, oh man, Miss Hall, I don't have a ruler in my house. How am I going to do this? It's possible. So what you do is you take your paper, okay? You're going to take one of the sides, I guess the bottom corner is fine, and you're going to bring it up so that it is aligned with the top, and you're going to crease it just like that. So it's going to look like this, and you can see there's a nice line down the side. This is where you're going to take your scissors then and cut it. So if I measured it, I like the measuring better, guys. And I know it's like, well, this is easier. But now you have a fold, kind of a diagonal fold on your project. So if you have a ruler, please use it over this method. But if you don't have a ruler, just do this. Okay? All right. So now I have a square. All right, so pretend this crease is not there. Some of you are going to have that crease too, and that's just life. If you don't have scissors, you can do the method where you fold it over and crease it real good and then gently rip it. See if your parents have some scissors, though. Sometimes a neighbor will have scissors. Someone will have scissors. All right, so since this is going to be a radial or symmetrical design, we're going to go ahead and fold this square in half. So you'll bring it up to the edge as best as you can get it, crease it, then turn it like this, fold it over, and crease it again. All right, so now what I have here is I should have 4 squares. You can see I have this diagonal running through it still, but that's just because I did that kind of other method. In my actual project, I did not draw lines where these ended here, but you could. So just for the sake of this demonstration, because it's hard to see, I'm going to draw a line so you can see where my 4 squares are. All right, now I'm going to go back to my example of my worksheet, and I'm going to go ahead and try to draw this one here. So if there's a dot right here, the dot is going to go in the center. Now you're not redrawing this 4 times. I'm going to show you how to do this. You're only redrawing it once. So if I am working this way, I'm going to have to turn this a little as I do it. That's just me. I have to do that. All right, so I'm going to use my pencil, and notice I'm using a regular number 2 pencil. Do you have to use a regular number 2 pencil? No, you don't. But I will tell you, with this process, you need to make sure you have enough graphite on your pencil so that it transfers. And I'm going to show you how to do that. All right. Now you're going to make it as close as possible. The sizing may be slightly different when you're working with this. The paper might be a little bigger or smaller. So you'll have to keep that in mind, that it may alter your design, and that's okay. So I would want to keep adding. I would make this very intricate. I like to make my designs, pretty interesting. And remember, this whole time you're supposed to be listening to your artist, okay? So pretend, I know I'm missing a lot of things here. I guess I'll do one more thing. And then I'm going to start what is called a graphite transfer. If you've had me in the past, you already know what a graphite transfer is, because I make you do this all the time. All right. I think these are kind of a big space, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so here comes the transfer process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and make sure that there's enough graphite on my paper that if I folded this over and I rubbed on the back, that it would transfer, okay? So what I usually say is take a pair of scissors with not a gripper on the end. If it's got a gripper in the inside, that's fine. It's not on the end. If you're at home, you don't have a pair of scissors, use a spoon, okay? That's actually a printmaking method that people use. They use a spoon. So I'm going to go through, and you really do have to apply pressure to do this. And I'm taking the scissors, and I'm just kind of putting pressure along the lines that I can see through the paper. Because again, if this is copy paper, if you're at your house, you're going to be able to see through it. If you're at school, you're using drawing paper, it may be a little bit harder to see through it. All right, so you can see that a lot of mine, well, you can kind of see, a lot of mine transferred. So then what you have to do is you have to redraw what you see. So I'm going to use the same tools so that it looks good as best as I can. If you used a ruler, I'm a little off there. If you used a ruler before, then you can use a ruler again. If any parts did not transfer, you're going to need to kind of go back, close the paper again, and try to see if you can get that transfer going, because the next part is going to be the symmetrical part. So I'm going to go ahead. See, I was going to freehand that, but it's going to look terrible, so I'm just going to see if I can figure out which one I used. So try not to freehand things unless you absolutely have to, because it does have an effect. All right, so once that is finished, I'm going to take this whole paper, I'm going to fold it in half, I'm going to use my scissors, and I'm going to rub all over these lines. Now, if you're using a mechanical pencil and you have a really skinny line and you're like, Ms. Hall, it's just not working, you've got to add more graphite to your paper, which means lead. Add more. You might have to even color a little bit with the pencil. Don't put so much lead on there, though, that you're not able to trace this in Sharpie, because that is what I'm going to be doing when I'm all done. All right. Okay, so when I open it up, you can see kind of, maybe not, you could see some of the pencil lines. I would need to go through, redraw that, and then I would be ready for the next step. If you have questions, email me at hallkr@foxc6.org.